What should have been a routine traffic stop at 1:00 a.m. has now spiraled into something far more unsettling and far more complicated. This isn't just another story about speeding or reckless driving. It's about what allegedly happened after the flashing lights, after the handcuffs, after the jail doors closed. Because according to reports now circulating, King Harris didn't just spend a night in custody. He may have experienced something far more serious behind those walls. And when word of it reached his father, the reaction reportedly wasn't quiet frustration, it was explosive. But before jumping to conclusions, it's worth slowing everything down and looking at how this unfolded. Police say King was pulled over for speeding. They claim there was a firearm inside the vehicle. They say he refused to exit when instructed. That's the official version. Straightforward on paper. But what happened next, after he was transported to Gwinnett County Jail, is where the narrative starts to fracture. Because multiple insiders are now suggesting that his treatment wasn't routine. The words being whispered aren't minor complaints, they're heavy, excessive, aggressive, targeted. And then there's the detail that's raising even more questions. Out of everyone reportedly in that car, King was allegedly the only one arrested. Why? Was it because of his behavior in that moment? Was it because of prior history? Or was it something else entirely? Something tied to his name, his image, the attention that follows him everywhere? That question alone is fueling speculation, and right now, there are more questions than answers. What makes this even more intense is the silence. T.I., a man who has never hesitated to speak publicly about his son's controversies, hasn't said a word. No live videos, no statements, no explanations, and that silence is loud. Because this is the same father who once openly warned the world about the path his son seemed to be heading down. The same man who admitted without hesitation, "I know that energy, I was that energy." That wasn't a casual remark. That was a warning shaped by experience. But what if this time the story isn't just about King's choices? What if the focus shifts from what he did to what may have been done to him? Because if even part of these claims turn out to be true, this situation could expand far beyond a single arrest. It could become something much bigger, something that forces a deeper look at how situations like this are handled behind closed doors. To understand why this has captured so much attention, you have to understand who King Harris is and what comes with that identity. He isn't just a 21-year-old caught in a late-night traffic stop. He's the son of a man who built an entire career telling stories about survival, consequences, and navigating the system the hard way. He's also the son of a public figure who has lived decades in the spotlight. King didn't grow up in the shadows. He grew up being watched, every move analyzed, every mistake amplified, every reaction dissected in real time. And for years, one narrative has followed him. He's trying to prove something. Back in 2022, when he was still a teenager, a viral altercation at a restaurant turned him into an overnight headline. What started as a simple dispute escalated into a loud, chaotic confrontation broadcast live. He climbed on counters. He shouted. He challenged people. And the internet responded exactly how you'd expect, harshly and relentlessly. Critics questioned everything. His attitude, his choices, his need to engage in conflict despite growing up with privilege. T.I. addressed it publicly at the time, and he didn't sugarcoat his response. He admitted he didn't understand why his son felt the need to operate at that level. And then he said something that still echoes now. If he keeps this up, he's going to prison. That wasn't for headlines. That was a father recognizing a pattern and fearing where it could lead, because he's lived it. He knows how quickly one moment turns into a record, how quickly a record turns into a reputation, and how quickly that reputation becomes reality. And the pattern didn't just disappear. Later that same year, King faced legal issues tied to traffic violations. Then came missed court appearances. Then another arrest. Each incident seemed to reinforce the same image: defiant, unpredictable, unwilling to slow down. At one point, he even posted his own mugshot online, framing it like a statement rather than a setback. To some, it looked like immaturity. To others, it felt like something deeper, like someone caught between identity and expectation. In 2024, another traffic stop escalated after officers reportedly detected marijuana. A previous warrant resurfaced, and once again, he was taken into custody. By then, the narrative around him had hardened. People weren't asking what's going on anymore. They were saying, we've seen this before. The story had become familiar. Then came a mom. And that many believed could change everything. King became a father, and for a brief time the tone shifted. His posts reflected growth, responsibility, legacy. He even released music dedicated to his child. There was hope, real hope, that this would be the turning point, that something had finally clicked. Even T.I. joked about becoming a grandfather, but beneath that humor was something more serious. He understood how fragile change can be, how easy it is to slip back into old patterns. For a while, things went quiet. Charges from earlier incidents were dropped. The headlines faded. The spotlight moved elsewhere. It felt like a reset. Until April 13, 2026. 1:00 a.m. Gwinnett County. Police report a vehicle speeding 15 miles over the limit. They say they spotted a firearm. They say King refused to comply with instructions. They say obstruction followed. And then came the detail that turned the entire situation into instant viral chaos. He was wearing a full Pikachu onesie, bright yellow, impossible to ignore. From the roadside stop to the booking process, it felt surreal, almost absurd. But the charges were anything but. Felony possession tied to a THC vape pen, misdemeanor obstruction, traffic violations. Suddenly, what could have been dismissed as just another strange celebrity moment became something much heavier, because the focus shifted. It wasn't just about what happened on the road, it was about what allegedly happened after. Almost immediately after his release on bond, reports began circulating. Words like aggressive, disproportionate, lines crossed, and just like that, the narrative changed. The jokes about the outfit faded, replaced by a much more serious question. What actually happened inside that jail? T.I.'s silence only deepened the tension. This is someone who has always addressed situations head-on, especially when it comes to his son. Every past controversy, every viral moment he spoke, he explained, he challenged. But this time, nothing. And people are noticing. Some believe the family is handling it privately, working with attorneys behind the scenes. Others think speaking too soon could complicate potential legal action. But there's also something more personal beneath it all. T.I. has openly admitted that he sees himself in his son. The same fire, the same stubbornness, the same refusal to back down. Now imagine watching that reflection play out in real time. And then imagine believing that, this time, the system may have gone too far with him. That combination isn't just emotional, it's volatile. And if these claims continue to gain traction, this story isn't slowing down anytime soon. It's only getting started. King Harris has always walked a complicated line, one foot in privilege, the other reaching toward a version of street authenticity he never had to live. Some say he was searching for something real. Others say he was chasing an image. But no matter the intention, reality has a way of showing up fast, especially when flashing lights fill your rearview mirror at 1:00 a.m. And now, if even part of the rumors surrounding this latest incident are true, the conversation shifts completely. This isn't just about a young man making questionable decisions anymore. It becomes something deeper, about where enforcement ends and punishment begins, about perception versus reality, about how quickly someone can go from a recognizable name to just another number inside a system that doesn't care who you are. Right now, the charges are still pending. No official public statement has been released, but behind the scenes, tension is reportedly building. Because this time, it's not just embarrassing, it's personal. And if T.I. truly believes his son was treated unfairly, then the silence we're seeing now isn't permanent. It's pressure building. And when that pressure finally releases, the fallout could be far bigger than anyone expects. The arrest itself already had all the elements of chaos. Flashing lights cutting through the darkness, officers issuing commands, hands on the steering wheel, And in the middle of it all, a bright yellow Pikachu onesie glowing under red and blue patrol lights. It almost didn't feel real. But according to the official report, the situation escalated when King refused to exit the vehicle. Officers say he didn't comply immediately. They say obstruction followed. They say they had to physically remove him. That's the documented version. Clean, direct, procedural. But what allegedly happened after that is where things take a darker turn. King was transported to Gwinnett County Jail shortly after 1:30 a.m. The booking process began. Charges logged, mugshot taken, belongings cataloged. On the surface, routine. Just another intake. Except according to multiple unverified accounts circulating online, the atmosphere inside the facility shifted the moment deputies realized who he was. Not just another detainee, but the son of T.I. That's when the tone reportedly changed. Social media lit up with claims that he was handled more aggressively than usual during intake. One anonymous post put it bluntly, he wasn't treated like a normal detainee. They were rough with him. Now, to be clear, these are allegations. There's been no official confirmation of misconduct. No reports from authorities supporting these claims. But in today's world, timing matters. And the timing here is what made people start paying attention. Because within hours of his release, King himself took to Instagram. At first, it seemed like he was brushing it off. He joked, saying they caught the Pikachu with a master ball, compared officers to Team Rocket, turned the entire situation into a meme. But then the tone shifted. In another post, the humor disappeared. He flipped off the camera, directed profanity at law enforcement. And one line stood out more than anything else. They threw me in jail all night. On paper, that doesn't sound unusual. Being held overnight after a felony arrest is standard in many cases until bond is processed. But people close to the situation reportedly interpreted his words differently, not as a complaint about being detained, but as frustration about how that detention happened. And that's where the first real twist emerges. Rumors began circulating that King was placed in isolation for part of the night. No official confirmation, no jail logs released to support it. But once that idea hit social media, it spread fast. Was it for his own safety because of his public profile, or was it disciplinary? No one knows for sure, but the question alone was enough to keep the story alive. Then came another detail that fueled even more speculation. Reports claimed that the other passengers in the vehicle were not arrested, only King. Legally, that could be explained if the firearm and vape pen were linked specifically to him, but perception doesn't always follow legal logic. Online, the question quickly became, was he singled out? And the speculation didn't stop there. Another widely shared claim suggested that during processing, King requested to contact his family but was temporarily denied due to his attitude. Again, no official documentation confirms this. But by that point, it didn't matter. Social media had already decided this wasn't just about a traffic stop anymore. It had become a conversation about treatment, about force, about whether his behavior at the roadside influenced how he was handled behind closed doors. And this is where the emotional weight of the situation hits hardest. T.I. has spent years warning his son about exactly this kind of moment. He said it himself, "I know that energy. I was that energy." He understands how quickly pride and defiance can escalate a situation, but there's a difference between hearing your son got arrested and hearing he may have been manhandled. According to insiders, when those details reached T.I., the reaction wasn't public, but it was intense. Not social media outrage, not press statements, just raw anger behind closed doors. Because fathers who have been through the system don't need explanations. They already know what those environments feel like. The cold holding cells, the tension, the unpredictability, the way things can escalate without warning. T.I. has lived that reality. So when his son said he was thrown in jail all night, it reportedly hit differently. It wasn't just words, it was something he could picture vividly. Then came another twist. King reportedly bonded out relatively quickly, faster than some expected for a felony-related case. That sparked a whole new wave of debate. Was it privilege? Did his family's resources accelerate the process? Or did his visibility actually work against him, putting him under more intense scrutiny from the start? Almost overnight, the internet split into two clear camps. One side argued this was predictable, that he keeps putting himself in these situations and consequences are inevitable. The other side pushed back hard, saying even if he made mistakes, that doesn't justify mistreatment. Accountability and abuse are not the same thing. Meanwhile, law enforcement has held firm. Lawful stop, lawful arrest, standard detention, no announcements of internal investigations, no disciplinary action, just silence. And that silence, paired with the Harris family's silence, is only adding more pressure to an already volatile situation. Then, just when things couldn't get more intense, a new claim surfaced. A local blogger posted a cryptic message suggesting that security footage from inside the jail exists, footage that allegedly shows a heated exchange during intake. No video was provided, no proof, just a statement, but it didn't need evidence to spread, because once people believe footage might exist, they don't let it go. Release the tape became the new demand. And that's where everything shifts. Because if that footage exists and shows standard procedure, the entire narrative collapses. But if it shows excessive force, even a moment that looks questionable, this situation explodes beyond social media. It becomes a national conversation overnight. Civil rights discussions, media coverage, old interviews resurfacing. Every word T.I. has ever said about the system suddenly carrying new weight. And maybe the most chilling part of all this is that none of it is entirely unexpected. Years ago, T.I. said something that's now resurfacing everywhere. If he keep this up, he going to prison. Ain't nothing I'm going to be able to do about it. At the time, it sounded like a warning. Now, it feels like something closer to a prediction unfolding in real time. Because the question isn't just whether King made bad decisions. That part is clear enough. The real question is what happened after those decisions played out. Was the force used appropriate? Was isolation necessary? Was he treated like anyone else would have been, or differently because of who he is? And here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Two things can exist at the same time. He can make reckless choices and still deserve to be treated within the law. He can be defiant and still be entitled to basic rights. One doesn't cancel out the other. The charges alone carry serious weight. Georgia law doesn't treat controlled substance cases lightly, especially with prior incidents involved. But if allegations of excessive treatment continue to gain traction, this case won't stay confined to a courtroom. It will move into the court of public opinion, and that court moves fast, loud, and unforgiving. As of now, no formal complaints have been filed publicly, no lawsuits announced, but the tension is building. And if there's one thing history has shown, it's this: when T.I. finally speaks, he doesn't hold back. And if T.I. truly believes something crossed the line, this situation won't stay contained to Gwinnett County for long. It won't just be about one arrest anymore. It could open the door to a much larger conversation about celebrity children, policing, and accountability in moments where power and perception collide. Right now, the official story is still intact. Speeding, a firearm in the vehicle, a THC vape pen, obstruction, overnight detention. That's what the paperwork says, clean, procedural. But behind that paperwork, something else is building. Rumors multiplying, questions stacking, tension rising. And one question keeps getting louder with every passing hour. What really happened during those unseen hours between booking and bond? Because whatever the truth is, this story has already crossed a line, from embarrassing to explosive. By the next morning, this wasn't just a local arrest anymore. It was everywhere. Clips of King Harris in that bright yellow Pikachu onesie flooded timelines. Memes spread like wildfire. TikTok edits turned the moment into entertainment. Twitter threads broke down every second of the roadside stop like it was footage under investigation. But while half the internet laughed, the other half started digging, and that's when everything shifted. A former inmate from Gwinnett County Jail posted a comment that quickly went viral. "Overnight holds there aren't soft. Intake gets rough if you argue." It wasn't directed at King specifically. There was no direct claim, but it didn't need to be. It added fuel to a fire that was already spreading. Then came another post, anonymous, unverified, but impossible to ignore. Someone claiming to be familiar with the facility suggested King was placed alone in a holding cell after a heated exchange during booking. No documentation, no confirmation, just another whisper. But in the age of social media, whispers don't stay quiet, they echo. And while all of this was unfolding online, one thing stood out more than anything else: silence. T.I., a man known for addressing controversy head-on, hadn't said a word. No Instagram live, no statement, no reaction, just silence. And according to insiders, that silence might not be random, it might be strategic. Entertainment reporters close to the situation suggest that legal counsel could already be reviewing what happened during those overnight hours. One blog even claimed attorneys requested internal documentation from the facility. Unconfirmed, yes, but the implication alone was enough to change the tone of the entire story. Because if legal teams are looking beyond the charges themselves, that suggests something deeper: concern, not just defense. Then came a moment that shifted the narrative again. Late that evening, King reposted a cryptic message on his Instagram story. "Sometimes you laugh so people don't see what really happened." No explanation, no context, just a sentence. But the timing, impossible to ignore. Within minutes, screenshots were everywhere. Suddenly, his earlier jokes, the Pikachu references, the Team Rocket comparisons were being reinterpreted. What if that humor wasn't just humor? What if it was a cover, a way to downplay something more serious? And just like that, the tone changed again. Around the same time, reports surfaced that his bond may have been processed faster than expected for a felony-related case. Some called it privilege, others called it protection. Either way, it added another layer to an already complicated situation. Behind the scenes, the tension reportedly reached a boiling point. Sources claim T.I. wasn't just upset about the arrest, he was furious about how it allegedly unfolded. And that's where things become emotionally complex. Because this is the same father who has publicly warned his son about antagonizing law enforcement. The same man who has said, repeatedly, that attitude can escalate situations. But now, if his son truly felt mishandled, that same father could be forced to question the very system he once told his son to respect. And that shift, that internal conflict, is powerful. Because T.I. understands both sides. He's lived both sides. He's been the young man in handcuffs, fueled by defiance. And he's been the older man trying to pass down hard-earned lessons about consequences. Now, he's something else entirely, a father watching history repeat itself, but under a completely different lens. Then came what many are calling the most explosive development yet. An online petition began circulating, demanding the release of jail intake footage. Within hours, it gained thousands of signatures. The message was simple: transparency. If nothing improper happened, show it. If everything was handled by the book, prove it. So far, authorities haven't responded publicly. No confirmation, no denial, just silence. And in situations like this, silence doesn't calm things down, it fuels suspicion. At the same time, critics are pushing back just as hard. They argue the facts are clear. He refused to exit the vehicle. There was a firearm, there was THC, there was obstruction. Actions have consequences. To them, this isn't complicated, it's cause and effect. But the other side isn't backing down. They're asking a different question. Even if he made mistakes, does that justify excessive force? Does frustration justify escalation? Does being detained overnight mean standards no longer apply? And just like that, the conversation has grown beyond one person. It's no longer just about King Harris. It's about accountability versus fairness, privilege versus prejudice, behavior versus treatment. Two narratives colliding, neither willing to give ground. Then came another quiet but significant development. Reports suggest the Harris family may be preparing to speak, but not casually, not emotionally, strategically. According to one Atlanta-based reporter, T.I. has been consulting with advisors on how to address the situation without interfering with ongoing legal matters. That tells you everything you need to know. When he does speak, it won't be reactive, it will be calculated. And calculated statements carry weight. Because if he even hints that something improper happened inside that facility, it won't sound like speculation. It will sound like an accusation, coming from someone who knows exactly what those environments are like. And that's why the industry is watching. Artists connected to T.I. haven't spoken publicly, but behind closed doors, conversations are happening. Questions are being asked. Is this bigger than it looks? Could this turn into something national? Because at the center of all of this is a 21-year-old, young, impulsive, still shaping his identity in full view of the public. One decision made in the early hours of the morning has now turned into something much larger. Felony charges, allegations of mistreatment, potential legal scrutiny, and a father with a history of challenging systems he believes crossed a line. The Pikachu costume may have made it viral, but the allegations made it serious. And now, everything hangs on one possibility. If footage from inside that intake process ever surfaces, whether officially released or leaked, it changes everything. It could shut the entire conversation down overnight, or it could ignite something much bigger. Until then, the story remains suspended in tension, charges pending, family silent, internet divided, rumors spreading. And one question echoing louder with every passing hour. Was this simply another case of a young man making the same mistakes? Or did something happen behind those jail doors that could shift this entire narrative? Because if even part of those mistreatment claims turns out to be true, this won't just be another headline. It will be a reckoning. By the second day, this wasn't just a Georgia story anymore. It was everywhere. Entertainment blogs replayed the arrest footage on loop. Commentary channels dissected every Instagram post frame by frame. Hashtags tied to his name surged in waves. But what truly turned this into a cultural flashpoint wasn't the outfit or the arrest, it was the division. The internet split instantly into two loud, unyielding sides. On one side, critics didn't hesitate. They pointed to the past, the 2022 altercation, the missed court date, prior arrests, the defiant mugshot post. To them, this was predictable, another chapter in an ongoing pattern. Privilege, they argued, doesn't erase consequences. But on the other side, supporters weren't focused on his past. They were focused on one word: mistreatment. If he was handled aggressively, that's a problem. If lines were crossed, that matters. Being famous doesn't mean you deserve harsher treatment. And then the phrase that changed everything started spreading. Release the footage. Once it caught momentum, it didn't slow down. A viral thread from a Georgia-based activist suddenly pushed this story into an entirely different lane. It didn't directly accuse anyone. It didn't name deputies. But it asked a dangerous question. What's really happening inside county jails, and why is transparency always the last thing to show up? Within 24 hours, that thread had been reposted tens of thousands of times. Not because it proved anything, but because it tapped into something bigger than one arrest. At the same time, voices from inside the entertainment world started weighing in carefully, subtly. A producer who has worked closely with T.I. posted a short message. Hope the young man's okay. Nobody deserves excessive force. No names, no accusations, but everyone knew exactly who he was talking about. Then the conversation spilled onto Atlanta radio. Live debates, real-time reactions. One host argued that King's repeated defiance makes situations like this inevitable. Another pushed back hard, saying systems are supposed to remain professional no matter who they're dealing with. Personality clashes don't justify escalation. And as the noise grew louder, one thing became impossible to ignore. T.I.'s silence. This is someone who has built part of his identity on speaking up, on accountability, on addressing controversy head-on, both personally and politically. He's never been the type to sit back and watch narratives unfold without stepping in. So why now? Some say it's strategy. Others say it's emotional. Because beneath all the headlines, beneath the speculation, there's a reality that hits deeper than anything trending online. This isn't just an artist watching a controversy. This is a father watching his son drift closer to consequences he's already lived through. And when you remember that T.I. once publicly predicted this path, saying, if he keep this up, he going to prison, the weight of this moment becomes even heavier. Those words are resurfacing everywhere now. Old clips edited together with new footage. The narrative practically building itself. A warning ignored. A cycle repeating, history unfolding in real time. But not everyone is looking at it the same way. Some fans are defending King, arguing that he's 21, young, still learning, still making mistakes that don't have to define him forever. Others are pushing back just as hard, saying accountability has to mean something, especially when the warnings were so public, so clear. Even within the industry, the reactions aren't loud, but they're there. Quiet check-ins, private conversations, because no matter where people stand, everyone understands this. Felony charges are serious, and allegations of mistreatment even more serious. Then the conversation evolved again. It moved from reaction to analysis. Commentators began asking whether King's attempts to align himself with a certain image, street credibility, toughness, may have backfired. Growing up with access and resources, yet gravitating toward high-risk situations, created a tension that some say was always going to explode eventually. But others pointed out something just as important. Being born into fame doesn't protect you from law enforcement. If anything, it can amplify everything. Every move, every mistake, every encounter. That nuance only fueled more debate. Meanwhile, TikTok creators started dissecting his Instagram captions line by line. Living a good Pikachu life in Tokyo, then come back to ATL and Team Rocket catch me. At first, it sounded like humor, but after that cryptic repost, sometimes you laugh so people don't see what really happened. The tone shifted completely. Now people weren't laughing. They were questioning. Was the humor a shield? Was it deflection? Was something being hidden behind the jokes? And just like that, the narrative changed again, from entertainment to possibility. Possibility that something uncomfortable happened behind those walls. Possibility that frustration was masking something deeper. Possibility that when T.I. finally speaks, the conversation won't just be about responsibility, but about treatment. Even mainstream outlets began picking up the story, but cautiously. Headlines stuck to confirmed facts: speeding, firearm, THC vape, obstruction. But opinion pieces focused on something else entirely: the silence. What does T.I.'s silence mean? Is legal acti oncoming? Why hasn't he spoken? Because when someone known for speaking out suddenly chooses restraint, people don't assume hesitation, they assume preparation. And that's where this story enters its most dangerous phase. Speculation without confirmation. No internal investigation has been announced, no footage released, no formal complaint filed in court, but none of that has slowed the conversation. If anything, it's accelerated it, because public opinion doesn't wait for paperwork, it moves ahead of it. Now the Harris family is at a crossroads. Say nothing and let speculation grow louder. Speak too soon and risk complicating legal proceedings. Either way, the tension is rising, and the longer the silence stretches, the more powerful the eventual response will be. Because if T.I. decides to speak, not just about his son's actions, but about how he believes his son was treated, this could shift instantly from celebrity controversy to a much larger confrontation about systems and accountability. And the industry is watching closely. Because this isn't just about one night anymore. It's about reputation, legacy, and whether this moment becomes another warning sign or the turning point that changes everything. Then, just when it felt like the story had reached its peak, something unexpected shifted the narrative again. Late on the third day, a source close to the situation reportedly told a local outlet that the Harris family is reviewing all available options. It sounds simple, but in moments like this, it's explosive. Because all available options doesn't just mean handling charges, it suggests something deeper is being considered. And suddenly, the question changed from what did King do to what happened to King. Let's be clear, there is still no official confirmation of misconduct, no internal review announced, no formal complaint filed. But here's where things take their sharpest turn. A legal commentator in Atlanta pointed out that if the family believes excessive force or improper treatment occurred, they could pursue internal records, request documentation, and potentially even take civil action. And that changes everything. Because now this isn't just about a late-night arrest anymore. It becomes about transparency, about accountability on both sides. And here's where it hits on a deeper level. T.I. has lived this before. He's walked through intake corridors, sat in holding cells, felt the weight of the system firsthand. Now imagine being that man, hearing your son describe his own experience behind those same walls. Even if everything was handled by the book, even if procedures were followed, the emotional impact doesn't disappear. But if something crossed the line, that question refuses to go away. Then came another subtle shift, quiet but powerful. King deleted several of his original Instagram stories. The jokes, the Team Rocket references, the middle finger post, gone. Why? Legal advice, regret, preparation. Because in situations like this, social media isn't just expression, it's evidence. Every post analyzed, every caption dissected. And now, the silence isn't just coming from T.I. It's coming from King too. Meanwhile, legal analysts are pointing out the reality that's easy to overlook. Felony possession charges in Georgia are serious. If convicted, the consequences aren't minor. Probation, heavy fines, possibly more. And with prior incidents on record, this won't be viewed as an isolated moment. So now King stands at a crossroads. One path: accept responsibility, resolve the charges, move forward quietly. The other: challenge the system publicly if misconduct is proven. Either way, this moment could define everything that comes next. Because this isn't just a viral clip anymore. It's not just a meme. It's not just commentary. It's a situation that could reshape how the public sees him permanently. And maybe the most haunting part of all this is how familiar it sounds. Years ago, T.I. said it plainly: if he keep this up, he going to prison. Those words are everywhere again. But what if this moment becomes something else? What if this isn't the prophecy fulfilled, but the wake-up call that finally breaks the cycle? Because sometimes it takes hitting the edge to realize how close you were to falling. Right now, everything is unresolved. Charges pending. Allegations unconfirmed. Footage, if it exists, still unseen. The family silent. The tension growing. If T.I. speaks, this could ignite something national. If he stays silent, the speculation only grows. If footage surfaces, it could either shut everything down or set everything off. But one thing is certain. This story isn't over. Not legally, not publicly, not emotionally. Because what happens next won't just decide this case. It could change everything around it. So now the question turns to you. Was this just another reckless decision that spiraled out of control? Or do you believe something deeper happened behind those jail doors? Because two conversations are happening at the same time. One about accountability, one about treatment, and both matter. Drop your thoughts, but keep it real and keep it respectful, because this isn't just content. Real lives are involved. And think about this. If that footage ever gets released, would you want to see it? Because it could flip this entire story overnight. Until then, everything remains in motion. No final answers. No clear resolution. Just a story still unfolding, and a moment that could become a turning point. Stay ready.